I am finally getting things cleaned up here from the little firewood fest that took place a couple weeks ago. There is, let me show you what's left on the ground from the one pile of wood that we had split. So here is all the slash remaining on the ground that I need to clean up from the one pile of wood that was here. And before you leave that comment, before you tell me how much kindling is laying down there on the ground that I need to pick up, let me show you this. I have already picked up all of that. Look at this. The entire, the Ultratech dump trailer here was completely empty. And this is all of the bigger pieces of slash that I picked up from the pile that was right there. So there's a good amount of kindling and slash to burn up. In my last video, I mentioned at the end that there was one other attachment that Chris from miniloaders.com had brought with him when he dropped off the Intrepid KM 130 mini articulating loader to try out here in the woodyard for a day. And that one attachment was a grapple, but the grapple rotated. You could spin it around. And I also mentioned there was a couple things that I needed to see if something like that mini loader could do here around the woodyard. And a lot of you have been leaving comments as far as like some of the limitations and some of the, I guess, some of the things that like the tractor can do that you were wondering if this mini articulating loader could do. And one of the things that I wanted to see with this third attachment that we tried out with the rotating grapple, I sometimes get longer logs dropped off up in the front of the property. And they're too long, they're too wide to fit through my gate. So what I end up doing with the tractor, when I use the tractor with the forks, I end up having to lift those logs all the way up in the air and go over the top of my gates. But with this attachment, you're actually able to pick up fairly long and fairly large logs, as you'll see here, and rotate them around and kind of lock them in against the dogs of this grapple and drive through the gate. So I was able to, like I said, move longer logs from the front to the back, and that was one of the things that I wanted to see in comparison to what I have to do with the Coyote. Yeah, I was pretty impressed with being able to pick up the log, turn it, and have it the long way, like sticking straight out in front of the loader and still drive through and move the log, drive through the gate and move the log back here into the woodyard. So now the final thing I needed to test with the Intrepid loader, and this was one thing that a lot of you pointed out in the comments, was being able to tow something or having a adjustable like 3-point hitch. Now the Intrepid loader does come with the option to have a hitch put on, or a receiver for a hitch to put on the back of the loader, but you're not able to then, like, you know, with the 3-point on a tractor, you can lower it down, raise it up. However, the attachment that we were using that day also had a receiver on it that you could put a hitch on, because the one thing I need to do around here is I need to move around equipment like the Yappa 365 and the Easton-made 37D. So with the right attachment and with that receiver, I was able to use the Intrepid loader to pick up, or hook up, I guess, hook up, pick up, and move the Easton-made 37D. And let me tell you, that thing is not light. But I was able to hook it up and move it. So, you know, in the event of I would ever find myself having something like the Intrepid loader here, I wanted to make sure that I could still move around the equipment like I do right now with the Coyote. And again, those two boxes of moving big logs through the gate and the moving equipment around, the Intrepid loader checked both those boxes off. You might be wondering why I have the Easton-made 37D moved into this position here in the carport, in the shelter, with everything else cleared out. Well, I will be, I'll be explaining that coming up here soon. That was, like I said, one of the last two things I wanted to see with the Intrepid loader, how well it moved bigger logs, and if I would be able to get something to where, you know, an attachment that I could put a hitch in, a receiver to put a hitch in, to move around stuff like the splitter and the Yappa, and even the Wolf Ridge. I mean, if I didn't have the Coyote, I would need some way to move these things around. And like I said, the Intrepid loader checked that box, and I was able to do it. So even though I only had the Intrepid loader here for a day and a half, during that time, I was able to test out the various attachments. I was able to see how each of the things I kind of do around the woodyard with the tractor, how well the Intrepid loader performed doing the exact same things, and in many cases doing those things, in my opinion, a little bit better. Yes, there are limitations. Yes, they are two different type of machines. Obviously a tractor is, you know, there's PTO, there's the 3-point hitch, there's all that stuff. But again, I just wanted to see how everything did play out. If something like an Intrepid loader could do all of the little jobs I do around the woodyard here with the Coyote. And it did. So again, thank you, Chris, miniloaders.com, for stopping up here. It was great being able to see just how something like the Intrepid KM 130 mini articulating loader would plug in and play here in the woodyard. And I think it did a pretty good job.